Okay, so I have with me in the studio Beacon Falls Pharmacy, and the article really did it justice. What's a typical prescription? I see you brought a list with you.
Well, we came up with a couple of sample lists. These are some generic drugs that typically are not on any of the discount plans that you'll get at the big box stores. Like Walmart has their cheap prescriptions. Most of theirs are very low cost drugs, and these are some that aren't as low as those. So we were kind of surprised. I went through a list with my wife, and I'll give you a few examples.
Okay.
Generic Prilosec, omeprazole. Our price for a 30 capsule supply was something like $60.25. The big box pharmacy was $179.99 for the exact same drug.
And again, this is a cash price.
That's a cash price, exactly.
Okay.
Another one was generic Lamictal, which is called lamotrigine. We had a price of $51.02. The big box was $182.99. I mean, and some of them were not quite as dramatic. Generic Flonase, for example, our price was $41.40. The big box was $66.99. But it just surprised us that we were so consistently less than them on cash prices, because they really can buy the drugs at a much greater discount than we can. We're not buying at the volume that they are, and yet, they aren't really passing that savings on to the customers.
Well, it appears not.
I'll say.
All right. So you wanted to make sure you plugged one of your functions. What do you have?
Oh, yeah. If I could do that, that would be wonderful.
It's open air.
On May 5th, we're having, this is kind of a mouthful, the 5th annual Naugatuck Valley Canoe and Kayak Race and Riverfest, in conjunction with the 14th annual Beacon Falls Lions Annual Duck Race.
Oh, the duck race. That's my buddy Lynn Ward in Naugatuck. Hopefully you haven't stole that idea from us.
Well, I hate to say it, but we've been doing it for 14
years. I heard.
It's a little bit longer than the one up here. I mean, granted, the Naugatuck race is a little bit bigger than ours.
They
not quite that
pack
large.
those ducks in.
But we have a great time, and we have merged the two events this year, and hopefully we're going to get a big turnout from it.
Smart marketing perspective.
The Route 6 band, which I believe is out of Middlebury, is going to be performing there. The Beacon Falls Firemen will be selling Long Trail Ale, and we have a Taste of Beacon Falls all afternoon long with the 2 or 3 restaurants that we have in town. Will be serving their specialties at the event.
Right on. So you and your wife are obviously involved in the community as well?
Oh, we're very active in the community. Yeah, I keep myself busy.
So anyone with questions on prescriptions out there, I know you have them, 203-757-1320. 203-757-1320. You have questions for myself or Robert Bradley. The concept here is you're getting killed on these prescriptions. Oh, one thing you and I spoke about on the phone, which I want my listeners to know. Medicare A is free. As long as you worked 40 fully satisfied quarters, you receive it, or you've been disabled for 24 months or longer. Medicare B, now you're paying a flat rate of $99.90. The Part D is what your pharmacy provides prescriptions for, not the Part B. Part B is only going to be provided at the hospital. So a Part B drug, chemo, radiation, that kind of stuff, that's a hospitalization cost. Part D, which was invented by the government, by the way, it was the first time in 2006 that an American from January 1st to June 1st had to purchase a prescription product. So the Part D drug portion of a Medicare Advantage or a Medicare supplement with a standalone prescription drug plan, that's what people are buying from you, correct? You provide the Part D drugs.
That is correct.
We spoke about that on the phone.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, that's we do the Part D. There are certain things you can get at pharmacies under Part B, like
an injectable,
things of that nature.
Certainly.
We don't participate in that simply because the volume is so low and the cost is so high to get into that business.
It's ridiculously high. The Humira, the Enbrel, the Remicade, these Part B injectable drugs are in the thousands of dollars. So the carrying cost to yourself is, if it doesn't sell, you're stuck with quite an expensive prescription.
That's correct. And there's just not much call for it in a small town like Beacon Falls.
One thing I can touch on, because I deal with it every day at the office, these things need to be prior authorized. The doctor or the hospital facility will call into the pharmacist 80% of pharmacies don't have it. Usually it's about a 24-hour lag time where the pharmacist will have to actually get it delivered. And, you know, you're going to have like CVS Caremark or Express Scripts or
Medco.
Yeah, Merck Medco. You're going to have the large corporations that have to actually deliver it. When they deliver it, it's usually in a styrofoam box with frozen packets in it. I've seen them.
Yes.
So, you know, that's something that maybe you'll give up a client or two. But for the clients out there that are going to the brand name pharmacists, how are you competitive on the generics versus the brand names? Where do you make more money?
Well, certainly there's a higher percent profit on the generics. So we do a little bit better there, but it's a lower cost drug. On the brand drugs, the cost of the drug is much higher, but the profit is lower. So it's kind of a wash. We prefer to dispense generics if we can, again, because the percentage is a little bit better, and certainly it saves the customer quite a bit of money. And since
Right.
it's the same drug, if it's available in generic, that would be our first recommendation.
Do you help the client with that? My clients are constantly asking me, I didn't even know atorvastatin was available. And by the way, because I have all these books in front of me, you can't see them. But these formularies were developed in 2011. Even though they're 2012 formularies, Lipitor still hasn't changed. People out there on Lipitor, I know you're mad. It is still being charged as a brand name drug on all the prescription Part D plans.
That's been a weird one. It came in, the generic...
December 1st.
Yeah, the generic did come out, and they weren't actually supplying the generic. They were supplying brand Lipitor in the generic bottle. And many of the insurance companies wouldn't even let us dispense the generic. They were requiring that we dispense the brand. We were kind of confused as to why that was. I don't have an answer for it.
What's the madness behind that?
Again, I have no answer. We do not know. We're curious ourselves.
So they were requiring you to dispense
the brand, yes. Now, that's turned around a little bit now. I'm seeing more and more folks getting the generic, and so I guess that has changed. I don't know if it was an exclusivity issue or what.
But what they did was they had a massive amount of surplus, and they said, we're going to eat this surplus. Let's make sure for the first couple months we'll force it. We have a caller on line one. First of all, thank you very much for listening to the show. How can we help you?
Oh, hi. On the kayak race, the kayak racers are saying that the Army Corps of Engineers is not going to let the water out of the dam, and the river's going to be flat that day. Are there any plans to make sure the water is rushing for a good race?
Well, we're trying. My understanding is, excuse me, that the Army Corps of Engineers answers only to Congress, and we actually have been lobbying Rosa DeLauro, trying to get her to help us out to put a little bit of water in the river. A little bit of rain wouldn't hurt either. So if you know anyone who could pray for rain, do the rain dance, perhaps that would be helpful. But we are going to hold the race, regardless of the depth, unless it's too high for some reason where it would be dangerous. So there may be a case where you'll have to portage over a couple of spots or take a little bit of a walk down the riverbank. But we're going to have the race one way or the other.
Okay. Well, many of the top people that have won the race, et cetera, are very concerned. And we hope that Michael Reagan can call Rosa DeLauro, maybe put her on the Medicare and You show, and then maybe we'll get some action.
You know, the beauty is Rosa DeLauro is a good woman from New Haven. She likes Tre Scalini, which is 3 steps for any of you Italians out there. I've seen her there with her mother. All you got to do is call Joe and Fran at Tre Scalini, get us a gift certificate. That would pull some strings, no doubt.
You got it. Thanks for the good show. Very nice. Good. Thanks, Bob.
Good to hear your plug. See you, my brother. All right. So, first of all, the gentleman who called in, I recognize his voice. He's a good athlete. He's a good athlete and a fun guy. All right. So, back to prescription costs. What's your nightmare with the formularies? Do you have to follow the formularies same as we do?
Well, the insurance companies tell us what we can and cannot dispense. I mean, the doctor sends in the prescription, we try to fill it, and it'll come up either no, we can't fill it, or you've got to get a prior auth, which just adds bureaucracy to the process. We've got to go back to the doctor. The doctor has to do paperwork and ask the insurance company, pretty please, can I prescribe prescribed this medication, and the net effect is it just delays the patient from getting their medication for a couple of days.
Okay, now what Bob is describing is a MedWatch override form. I speak about it all the time on my show. The person needs the brand name. There's a generic available. Nexium works way better than the Protonix. The Protonix is what the insurance would prefer to pay because it's $37 versus $180. So the client goes in, sees Bob and his beautiful wife, and first of all, the DAW is no longer allowed, dispense as written. The doctor just writes DAW on the script. That no longer flies. So they go into Beacon Falls Pharmacy with the script, and it says DAW on it, dispensed as written. Bob's wife calls the insurance carrier. No prior authorization, no MedWatch override form on file. Now, the pretty please, turnaround time is like 48 hours. You have to call the doctor's office, have them coordinate with the insurance carrier. 1-800-338-6180. Hi, Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, how can we help you? Hi, this is Dr. So-and-so's office. We have a situation where the clients tried the generic. It's not working. It's giving them irritable bowel syndrome. They've got diarrhea all night, or they're throwing up. Well, have you tried it for 30 days? Okay, so go make yourself sick for 30 days before we'll override and give you the brand name. It's a runaround. I mean, I deal with it on the other end because they call the office. You and your wife deal with it right at the front end at the counter. OTC, we call it, over the counter. So how do you help?
Well, I mean, all we can do is pester the doctors and pester the insurance companies. And, fortunately, my wife knows the meds pretty well, and she can make suggestions as to alternatives. Where it really gets complicated is, in some cases, if someone has just changed insurance, they'll be on a medication all along.
Correct.
And all of a sudden, the new insurance company tells them that, no, that's not on our formulary. You've got to get a prior auth. And what's worse, they then want them to do a step therapy.
Correct.
And take 2 or 3 other different medications, which they may have already taken 2 years ago and found ineffective. They've got to go through the whole rigmarole again just to get the medication that they've been on.
Do you hear that out there? Step therapy. It's exactly what we're talking about. The formularies do not cross over. I've got a United Healthcare formulary in my hand and a Connecticut formulary. Your employer or your insurance agent changes you. They do not coincide with each other, not simultaneously. You must start completely new with even if it's the same carrier. You have Merck Medco with one insurance company and then the other. They do not correlate over. I'm not a huge fan of mail order drug. I actually like knowing the pharmacist. I'm sure you have a following. Where did your wife start out that you guys are owning your own business?
Well, she actually went to the Albany School of Pharmacy, graduated from there, and she worked for CVS for many years, probably
Right.
20 years or so. And I'm a former corporate person. I left that, and she left CVS, and we've been happy ever since running our own pharmacy. It's a lot better working for yourself.
And doing well. I mean, I hear your name all the time at my seminars. People are saying what a pleasure it is to deal with you. You actually follow up with the client to make sure everything is working. Is that true?
Oh, yeah. My wife is excellent. She's just, I don't know how she does it, but she'll call people afterwards to make sure things have worked out. She's very proactive. If someone comes in, for some reason we don't have a prescription, she will spend the next 20 minutes on the phone calling local pharmacies to find the med for someone. She doesn't just throw them out to the wolves.
Nice customer service. All right. Okay, so anything else you have on the agenda?
Oh, I could go on for hours about the frustrations of this business.
Go for it.
You just mentioned mail order. That's a real hot button with us. It's the beginning of the year. People's plans have just changed, and now they're coming in and finding out that their new plan has mandatory mail order, and they're not allowed to come to us anymore, that they've lost their choice in pharmacy.
That's happening a lot, actually, with these large health reimbursement accounts or health savings accounts. The employer on the front end is trying to save money, so they're beating me up in the boardroom, and they say, okay, well, what are all the alternatives? Well, some carriers like Connecticut have an upfront $200 deductible. Some carriers like United Healthcare on the large group will have mail order mandatory, which is a 90-day supply, but only through the mail. And that is a considerable cost savings. Anthem will do both. Anthem will give you mail order drug and they'll also give you a 90-day supply at the pharmacy. But one of the cost savings items is the generic mandatory. It's now GEN, what we refer to as generic override. You have to take the generic first if there's one available, and if you don't, then you pay the cost of the generic plus the additional cash out of pocket just for the brand name drug. So people always say to me, well, I just spent $68 on that. That's because the cost of the generic was $10, and you had to pay the $58 overture just to get the brand name. The mandatory mail order drug, MOD, is saying the insurance company said to the client, well, look, we cut a deal with you, and you wanted an 8% reduction on the 10% rate increase we gave you. So in order for you to get only a 2% rate increase, you have to have it mandatory that all of your 78 employees get mail order drug. What do you do in that situation?
Well, there's not much we can do. If it's a case where the mail order has a copay, very often our cash price can be competitive.
Nice.
But in some cases, there's no copay. The one that comes to mind right off the bat is the state employees. The state employees can no longer choose where they get their medication. They have to go and send their business to CVS Caremark, which is an out-of-state company. Our estimate is somewhere between $60 and $100 million in revenue annually going out of this state into Rhode Island to CVS Caremark just on state employees alone. And it's very frustrating that the small business is really being thrown under the bus here by the state.
And is that part of the Dana Malloy administration new laws?
Absolutely.
You and my buddy Larry Rifkin touched on that. Go ahead, please.
It's kind of frustrating. The sense we get is that the governor really doesn't care much about the small pharmacies. They've made it pretty clear that we're not a concern of theirs, and I don't know why, but they're really they're doing harm to small business in this state.
Anyone with questions, please call in. We're going to take a break. 203-757-1320.